Cel-shaded art. Cel shading is a method of computer rendering shadows onto images without a gradient, just with straight edges of different shadows. This makes the art look flat and less like a digital drawing. This style has been widely associated with anime and cartoons, in which the style is used to replicate hand-drawn comic shading. Cel shading has massively impacted the gaming industry with such a loved look. It helped create immersive and distinctive artwork, recreating the loved style from popular movies and TV shows. Here are some examples of cel-shaded art, and here are some examples of art that I made myself in cel-shaded form. Cel-shaded games include Guilty Gear Strive by Arc System Works 2021. It's a 2D complex anime fighting game with beautiful rich artwork, vibrant colors, bold lines, and 3D characters with 2D cel shading. The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker by Nintendo is an open-world 3D game, action-adventure RPG. The borderless art style gives a happy, whimsical experience through expressive characters and bold colors, giving a memorable and joyful player experience. Haven by The Game Makers is a third-person, semi-open-world survival game. It's an RPG and adventure and indie game, with 2D cel-shaded characters in a 3D world. Stylized art. Stylized art is drawing something without the intent of it being realistically accurate. Stylized art gives a much more creative and unique effect. Stylized games are more flexible and expressive, as they are not bound to the same limits and rules of realism. This gives more creative freedom to the designer and can allow them to properly fulfill their artistic intent. Here are some stylized art examples. Stylized art in games. Overwatch by Blizzard is a multiplayer FPS team-based action fighting game with unique characters and abilities, and they use cartoonish anthropomorphism with stylized art to create a really nice look. Deadlight by Tequila Works is a single-player horror survival game. It's a side-scroller platformer and horror indie game. The characters are silhouettes, and it uses a dark grey colour palette along with bright red blood to give emphasis. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate by Bandai Namco Studios and Nintendo is an epic stage battler with a complex arrangement of mechanics and abilities. It's a fighting platformer action game. The game's art contains vibrant, bold colors with a clean 3D cartoon look. Low poly art. Low poly art is a design that creates a minimalistic effect by using less polygons. I really like low poly art, and I think simple shapes help create a 3D effect, given the object's proper tone and depth. It also reminds me of origami. Here are some low poly art examples. Low poly art in games. Dancing Line by Cheetah Technology Corporation Limited is a musical rhythm-based game. It's a single-player game, and it has a low poly art style which creates simple yet memorable levels with each their own unique color palette. Super Kiwi 64 by Cyactro Diplodocus Games is a 3D platformer collectathon, and the 3D low poly art gives it the look like it comes from the 90s, likely inspired by Mario 64. BattleBit Remastered by Mr. Okidoki, Battlecot, and the Liquid Horse is a first-person shooter with a large multiplayer experience. It has an extremely simple art design and almost no details in the materials. This is to drive the focus simply onto gameplay, and it allows the game to run on very minimal processing power. Monochromatic art. Monochromatic art uses all different forms of tone, shade, and tint based off of one hue, which is the base color. In short, all the art is drawn in the same one color. This creates a very interesting result where all aspects of the image reflect the same emotion. Monochromatic games include a lot of black and white games which put the focus directly onto the gameplay, or simple line art for easy understandable levels of puzzle games. Here are some monochromatic art examples. Monochromatic art in games. Return of the Obra Dinn by Lucas Pope is a single-player adventure puzzle game, and it's an indie game. It uses black and white, low resolution, and dithering to create a very retro look. Echochrome by Japan Studio. The game follows a mannequin character exploring a rotating world where physics and reality are affected by perspective. It's a puzzle game, and the use of black and white color palette with simple geometric shapes clearly defines all the lines. Super Hexagon by Terry Kavanagh is a single-player reaction time game. It's an adventure, indie, and Twitch gameplay game. It uses a very simple yet mesmerizing design, and the gameplay consists of a spinning hexagon with multiple shades and tones of the same hue. Isometric art. Isometric art is a style in which two-dimensional figures are portrayed at an angle that makes them appear three-dimensional. Isometric art has made a significant impact on the gaming industry. With its unique style, it is great for adventuring games as it gives good depth and detail into the world. Here are some examples of isometric art. Isometric art in games. Fallout 2 by Black Isle Studios is a turn-based combat adventuring role-playing game in a post-apocalyptic world. It has a detailed, gritty style with hand-drawn 2D sprites. Tunic by Andrew Scholdice and Isometric Corp Games is an action-adventure indie game RPG with strategic combat and puzzles. It's simple low-poly art with glowing bright saturated colors at an isometric angle. Icewind Dale by Black Isle Studio is an adventure game with tactical combat and customizable parties of characters. It's an RPG in a fantasy world with dark and detailed graphics. Concept artists. A concept artist is a person responsible for visualizing the original artwork and concepts from a creative brief. A concept artist might work with a game studio, movie studios, 3D artists, and game publishers. The concept artist is the one who sets the tone for the character and its mood. Across the entire project, the concept art will be referenced, so it's important that there is good creative concept art for further ideas to spring from. Shigeru Miyamoto. Shigeru Miyamoto is a famous accomplished video game designer and concept artist, his most notable titles being Donkey Kong 1981 and The Legend of Zelda 1986. Shigeru's father was friends with Nintendo's president, Hiroshi Yamauchi. Shigeru was given an interview and greatly impressed the president, earning him his first spot at Nintendo in 1977 as a planning apprentice. Miyamoto created the legendary game character Mario, which is known globally as the most famous and liked character to ever come from a video game. The impact Mario and Nintendo had on the world is unbelievably massive. Mario helped turn Nintendo into an industry-leading company and gave it its icon. Miyamoto's games are so popular and respected for having a real connection with the consumers and creating an emotional bond to the characters and their stories. Sid Meier is a well-revered producer of strategy games, notably the Civilization series. He believes games can be both educational and entertaining, and a good tool for learning. In his games he has a focus on history and economics through complex systems that the player will have to understand to master the game. He also prioritizes gameplay and mechanics over graphics. His impact on the gaming industry is large and has helped pave the way for many historical and strategic games to come, with a focus on a very good immersive player experience, replayability, attention to detail, and player agency in the outcome of the game. Hironobu Sakaguchi. Hironobu Sakaguchi is a game developer and concept artist. His most well-known work is creating the Final Fantasies franchise. Final Fantasy is known for having really engaging stories with deep meanings behind them. It has gone on to sell 136 million copies worldwide, making it one of the largest RPG games ever. His games are very cinematic, with a focus on storytelling, character development, exploration, and world building. This has made a huge influence on the games industry, leading to more games being made with an emphasis on an immersive, interesting storyline and well-developed characters.